It's Dan and cause it's probably under her maiden name, Jessica Brand.
Oh, there is a right.
Yeah, it's just-
Oh, man, all right.
So,
Say, because I have not seen it to sell.
yeah,
We are okay. Right now we have more yeses than nos, just by 2. It's not like it's huge. But we also, we've had people move, like my neighbor. She sold recently, so I just want to redo the name on it and spend time with them because they didn't know what was coming. So that's, it takes a lot of time right now.
Probably takes time at each house. to
Yeah, I
complete.
mean, I'm at a house for at least a half hour, 45
Yeah,
minutes every.
It's not just
I
the
stop
same
it,
here.
it's not like that.
How many are left to do? Approval?
Was it 89?
Yeah, I think it was like 90.
90 lots,
Yeah.
so we're 40 through.
I'll give you
So,
some.
There's
so
one
people are
more.
home,
No.
so people won't answer the door.
So you're saying.
Yes, they have-
One thing, what I do, there's some houses, I've gone to twice. They don't answer the door.
That's what
You're
Jim.
just saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they think I'm a person serving them with papers or I'm a bill collector. I don't know how we're gonna handle
Yeah,
this,
that's gonna be
okay?
Okay.
So, but I put it on a sticky note, so everybody, you did a good job there at that meeting with the,
Oh, thanks.
Stewart brothers. I appreciate that. Anyhow, I don't know how we're gonna do this, but thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Yeah.
40 that you've got?
Yeah.
So you got another 50 to do roughly.
Roughly, again, with some of these are vacant lots that are attached to a lot, so. Yes, there's 90 overall, but probably like 8 physical addresses, because there's vacant properties, so the same person has to sign for 2 lots.
So they get 2,
They get 2,
they get 2 votes, so that they have 2
Well-
frontages, because they would technically pay 2
correct.
Right,
users.
Yep,
So they get 2
correct.
votes.
basically.
Until they do a lot line adjustment.
At least you don't have to do the same spiel twice.
Right.
I would certainly encourage him to do a lot line adjustment rather than paying.
Oh,
I
heck yeah.
mentioned it, so
Heck yeah,
I'll say on Jim's end. It was more yeses. On Emerson Road, I had more no's because I have an older generation. There's only 2 people in the house and. They're like, I don't have a problem.
and you've got the crew down Risser Road who are very much, there's that crew that was going out trying to separate from the district too. That are gonna be very much against it.
And I explained to them, and I go, I'm not here to tell you one way or the other. If you want it, you do, you don't, you don't. I'm not going to be a salesman.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing, as Jim was saying, the income,
It's been a big thing.
$50 a week.
So if you want to hand any of those to any of us, just please let us know. There've been like 10 of them to keep working on.
So I just gotta get some new addresses on the ones, so
Okay.
about 7 of them. There's been 7 houses that have changed over in that
Okay.
area recently.
Oh,
So-
please give me some, I can do some today, I'll do Jessica Brand. So, right now.
Even if it's just a list and said, here's 6 or here's
Yeah.
10.
Okay.
It just spreads it out, and then it's like, even if it takes 5 or 6 times, 25 other places, it's,
I got some maybes.
Yeah.
I said, I'll come back and talk to you.
yeah, just.
They would like it. But
You
they're
gotta think
not
about it.
necessarily
Yeah.
liking it because of the cost.
Yeah, no one wants to spend an extra $200, it's fine.
It's hard.
It's fine.
Especially if they don't have it.
Right,
Exactly.
So don't be afraid to use this.
The problem is, it's what, $45,000 to replace your septic system, and that's,
It just depends on the site, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a high number, but yeah.
So it's
Usually,
like,
if you did a raised bed, you'd probably be in that 30 range or something like that for most places, but.
I just replaced the leach field, that whole process from the tank out, that cost me about 12 grand.
Yeah.
But one's not around to do it anymore.
Mhm.
Anyway, let's move on from that. Mr. Ovani is joining us this morning.
How's it going?
Kevin, you got.
We're about to find out.
Yeah, that's right. It's going pretty well. Yeah,
sunshine all weeks.
I apologize. I had dental appointment gone bad. It was, yeah.
Oh,
No, it's all good. It's all good now.
So as long as you don't drool all over. the
Exactly. Yeah, there is a little Novocaine going on.
I'm
All right,
sorry.
I mostly understand you, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not a.
Yeah, just sort it by date modified. It should be. Jared, this will kind of look familiar, but I don't want to go through a whole presentation, but so big picture, we'll talk, not happy.
It doesn't like so.
It's like.
Maybe.
Try a right click, maybe that'll give you something.
Do you still have that email that has got the map?
Yeah, how do you see it coming up as a drive?
Yeah, it's weird.
Make your file explode.
I'm gonna unplug it and do it again.
This one?
Hang on.
Yeah.
This one?
Yes, yep, perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
and then go to date modified. Yep, and then just click on that first one, that's fine.
A lot of lines, Kevin.
Lot of lines, lot of lines. Let's see, so. Big picture, just remember, so Suckerbrook subwatershed, Hickox and Bliss Road down in here, it's working its way up. Coming through and then through the city. So we've been looking at a bunch of different projects. We've zoned in on the Happiness House area, trying to really figure out some good solutions there. And I want to talk about, that for sure and figure out, divvying out, quite honestly, some engineering services. And we had a great meeting with, great meeting with, the folks from, Mark Stryker, who owns this upland field
Thank
up at, not owns,
No
but
problem.
works this upland. No, it's good. We said they need to get done. So, we'll leave it at that. So, and yeah, I know. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I do want to just jump back a little bit and just kind of look at, a couple of projects we have done, and then we'll maybe talk about this because I think it would be good. So maybe that next slide, Jim.
Yeah.
Hopefully it,
I'll give them something.
Can you point to Happiness House and show me?
Sure, yeah,
Reference
yeah.
on it?
I would just, no, you're fine. So Happiness House is right in here.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we're looking at this drainage area right in here. There's about 300 acres almost that's flowing from the south side of 5 and 20. So here's 5 and 20, here's the town hall. South side of 5 and 20 to County Road 32. This yellow boundary is the swale that runs between the accessible park and Happiness House. So that's a good chunk of land that's coming through. We're looking at a project, it's really easy to do, and I think it's definitely outside the wetland zone to be able to take this 160 acres that's coming through and utilize this existing wetland system that's right out there. And basically during, these larger storm events, let this handle another about 2 feet of storage without any negative impacts to highway department, anything around it at all, the neighbors up in here. So that's all town land, yes, yeah. So it's a really simple fix right by the north entrance. We could put in kind of like choke down the pipe a little bit, put in a separate pipe just to allow that water to back up into this area. And literally it's almost 20 acres. We can get 2 feet of additional storage there, 40 acre feet of storage just like that. We could really peel off this peak flow just like that. So that's something we're looking at. Very simple project to do. We'll see if we need permits or not.
So when you say 2 foot of additional storage,
Yeah.
explain to me what that means.
Yeah, so 2 feet vertically, right
Okay.
in the wetland.
In that
So
area, you're getting
spread out
2
over
feet.
20 acres, so it's 40 acre feet of storage. So that says 325,000 gallons in an acre foot. So you start doing the math here, you're in that 10 million or so range of gallons of water to be able to store in that, that type of area. So
So to do that, do you have to lower the level? I mean, what do you have to do?
literally, you just have to put, like, if you drive out there's a nice berm on this side of the west side of the swale. You've got your entranceway and literally it'd just be putting like a 10-inch pipe, 12-inch pipe,
Okay,
berm it, 2 feet high, so it allows some flow to go through, but it'll back up water into that. We can talk a little bit about engineering on that, even if we need it. It's outside the wetland zone, but. So we'll look at that aspect. That's a pretty simple fix.
And how much relief does that give to
Yeah.
the areas downstream?
We can run some of those numbers, and we've got, actually, they ran the HydroCAD on that, so we can look at what the peak flow rates are coming through. And then we can back out in terms of figure out the reductions, but it's substantial, it really. But again, there's 5,800 acres draining through. So it's kind of, it's a puzzle, right? We call it a dendritic puzzle, all these different lines coming through, or your flow points coming through. So we're trying to peel off wherever we possibly can. So this is one of many projects. We met with John Nope, who's the main landowner in here. And this is kind of a system that kind of works its way through here. And again, we got to work, there's multiple landowners, but this is one we're going to look at about possibly putting in a little berm right here to back that water into this area that Lloyd Kinnear owns a little bit of it. I think Mr. Steele owns a little bit, Tom Steele, and then mainly it's John Nope owns this piece. And he was very comfortable with this as a concept to do that. It has no negative impacts on him. So
Are the red areas on this map, Kevin?
Yeah.
Some of the areas where you're expecting to put some
new stuff,
New
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, we'll call it new stuff, yeah. And then this one in here is about, I think, 12 to 14 acres roughly. This is one we really tried to approach Mr. Bernessel, who owns this property right here, and John Nope farms it. And I had one conversation with him, and he was, willing to listen, and then kind of I think that he had development plans for this area, but this is another one of those where it literally would take, and then Jim talked with Barb Allen, who owns this portion up in here. And literally this thing sets up like a perfect bowl where all you need is kind of a controlled outlet structure to back that water up when we want to, right? These days it would be just a flow through system, but when it's cranking rain, it would back into this area and shave off those peak flows. So these are things that we're looking at all over the place, try to get that next phase of these projects in. And we've got, some good conversations. John Nope gave us his Bernessel's contact information, so we're going to approach him again. There's some possibilities maybe in here also, a small one. But those are things that we're looking at kind of big picture wise right now. But if we could, maybe that next slide.
Kevin, while you got this
Yeah.
up, are these areas different from what you presented in the past?
Yes, yeah, so the next slide is gonna be looking at, so here's the headwaters that's coming down. That comes through Dave Sauter's land. And this is the project where we basically offload a portion of the flow, and it backs into this big wetland system in here. And then we have that 3 acres up front, but a lot of the work is really happening in here. And this is Mrs. Policini's property, so that next slide shows that. Hopefully the video works, we'll see. Hit the play button, yeah, yeah.
So here's the main branch of Sucker Brook coming down this hedgerow.
So this is last Friday, week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now, actually.
Through this system,
Um,
and there's water that's going into that pipe.
Could you maybe click this button right there?
That then goes.
Yeah, that actually might go better. It'll, I think, flow better. Yeah.
So here's the main branch of Sucker Brook coming down this hedgerow. 520 project. You can see the amount of flow that's coming through this system. And there's water
Pipe
that's
right there.
going
going
down
down underneath the berm.
down, I think, to an 18-inch opening that then goes out.
So again, that's the main branch right there.
This
This is on Dave Sauter's property, Sucker Brook. This is that 520 project, we call it. Yep.
Going out.
Yeah, just down the road across, yeah, and then so now we're taking all of this flow, so we built, Town Forces built this berm right through here. It's about 700 feet in length. So all that water is offloading and going way back into that wetland area. It's spreading out, slowing down. This is MRB did the design on this, we worked together on this. So the next slide.
How many acre feet did we create with that one?
That literally you get about 2 to 3 Yeah, so go to the slideshow, stay in the slideshow format and just kind of, you can probably, no, don't play it, you go to slideshow first. Yeah, and then just, now you can hit play. So now this is the wetland back in there, so probably about 3 feet of storage on average back there. 22 or so acres of wetland, and then we got the 3 up front. So this is that water now that you saw flowing is now backing into that area.
There's the outflow.
And then next stage is it goes into this next system that we have out front.
Here.
July 9th, the emergency spillway was cranking this thing, but this was the only culvert, the one that crosses 5 and 20, the only culvert that wasn't overtopping during the July 9th storm. So it was working out pretty well. So yeah, this is a great water quality treatment. We use the wetland system to do that. Again, all this land was donated in terms of easements. So yeah. So it works out really well. And then, yeah, maybe we can go to that next slide. Just, you can just scroll down probably. Go a minute. So just scroll again.
So did I
Yeah.
understand you correctly? You just said through an easement.
German easement, yes, on that, yeah. So here's the outflow. That's how much water, again, it's, still pretty muddy. There's some treatment going on. The treatment really happens over the extended detention. But look at the peak flow rate reductions that we're getting from that flow that's coming out there compared to what was coming into the project area. So that's the big benefit from a flood perspective also. So the next slide. And if you want, I can.
Here, this one,
Yeah, so here's the County Road 30 project. So yeah, just click, yeah, yep.
So here's County Road 30 project.
So main branch,
Real nice.
about 3,500 acres of drainage area. And then here's,
Yeah, we got a lot of. Like, quick estimate, maybe 25% of the flow is getting offloaded and brought out to our big project area. You can see some of the water starting to pond up.
so then it's that 18 acres roughly that goes all the way up almost to the airport area. So the next slide should show the,
So here,
just, yeah. So here's that pond area filling up back in there, again, probably 2 to 3 feet. You can see still berm height still, we got a lot of storage potential still left in this one. So these worked really well during that storm. Our FLCC project also was filled pretty high as well. So that was working well to kind of attenuate the peak flows, reduce those peak flows, and then go from there. So the next slide I think shows, so why this matters, the connection town and city. This is West Gibson Street. And you've got about maybe 8 to 10 inches roughly of freeboard before it would start hitting.
Is this 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. So this is 2 weeks ago today. So this was, we got calls. I went down to Naples that day also. That whole system we built down there was working awesome, flooding out. It was really a bank. It was 1.2 inches of rain, but the week before it was really cold, frozen ground, right? And then, or it was saturated. So there was nothing going into the ground. So you put that same storm in June, no big deal, right? It happened over about a 4-hour period, I would say, somewhere in that range. So it just probably 80-90% runoff from that type of rain event. So maybe a 1-year storm event kind of level, but really a runoff level in that 2 to 5 year range in terms of frequency interval. So a pretty substantial rain event that occurred, and we saw minor issues kind of in a lot of different places. Yeah.
a lot of concerns.
Right, but these are the constriction points for the bottlenecks. It did get out into Outhouse Park a little bit that morning, but nothing major, and that's really because of what we've done upstream. So it's good to kind of look at these things and just remember, okay, these are the kind of projects we've done. And I'm trying to remember what the other slides are. If we can just kind of scroll. So yeah, all right, good. So here's Buffalo Street Extension, Outhouse Park right here, and then here's the Outhouse Estate Properties Happiness House right here. So what we're looking at is that storm event, and I'll show you in a couple of the pictures. We were about 3 or 4 inches of this building flooding out again. And then this white building in here has a lot of off-site water that's coming into it. So it was, all right, we're dealing with this again. So we came up with, you know, an approach where we bermed off this flow that was coming out of here, and then this flow system, the rain garden, the water just backwaters into the rain garden and would flood and get close to flooding this area out. So we just separated that. We worked in partnership with Happiness House. It was a day or so of work to get it done. Jim's crew did a great job, and it sets the stage for us now to do a lot more work in this area. So that's been done. And what we're looking at now, though, is trying to take, so here's the high point for the farm drainage that's coming down. Farmer Mark's doing a great job up there. Mark Stryker, good strip cropping, all that kind of stuff, but still a lot of runoff coming down through here. So we're not doing this just to protect Happiness House, you know, what we're proposing. It's really more about, okay, trying to protect Outhouse Park, city areas, you know, downstream areas from there. So, and again, it's trying to pick off and shave wherever we possibly can. So town lands in here, right? So we're working, Soil and Water Conservation District's involved also. They're coming up with some good infield farmable basins to try to reduce some of those peak flow rates coming off of this farm drainage coming down. And we had a good meeting with them, and we kind of came to some agreements, and Mark Stryker is great. He's on board. The Canandaigua National Bank holds in trust the outhouse estate property. So it's their job, and Jim Lieb's the trustee. And we've been meeting with them also to kind of talk about some projects. And then we had a great meeting with FEMA under our hazard mitigation. And what we were trying to do is what we want to look at is a series of kind of basins here and then down in here. And it works well for the farmer. This is town land in here on the west side of the swale. Mark was fine with losing a little bit of this farmland in here because it's just tough to turn and everything else. It's a flatter spot. So we're looking at a basin here, and then kind of a basin that would straddle both sides of Happiness House and the field system. And what I'm recommending, and I really think we look at, is an easement approach again, where easy access for the town to be able to maintain this basin here. But what we're struggling with right now is with FEMA is how to get this paid through the mitigation eligibility that Happiness House has and the town of Canandaigua has. So we're waiting for clarity back from them as to if we didn't have an easement in place before July 9th, can we apply for hazard mitigation funds to establish and build a project if there wasn't an easement there beforehand. So we're waiting to hear back on that. They did say under this funding for the storm program, we're not allowed to kind of commingle funding, which would make the most sense because it benefits Happiness House, who's eligible for hazard mitigation funds, and the town, who's eligible for the damages to Outhouse Park. FEMA's saying, no, you can't work together. We love that you want to do that. We think it's a great idea to work together, but no, our funding's not going to allow you to work together to do that under this type of hazard mitigation. So we think we got some workarounds to still build what we want to do. But what we're going to propose is Happiness House apply for the hazard mitigation funding to build on their property, what we're looking to do. And then we see a need, and this is where we got to work with MRB to look at sizing of this, depth, and how we want to just exactly lay this out. But this is about 850 feet, about 80 feet wide, so about 1.7 acres in size. And if we can get probably 4 or 5 acre feet of storage in there at least, we just got to figure out, do we outlet it into this pond and bring it this way? Do we split it and outlet some to County Road 30 ditch and around that way? Because what's happening right now is this flow is coming through and impacting Happiness House during these small to moderate storm events. And their system in here cannot handle it. And it's getting very close to their building in there. So there's a lot of win-win solutions on this to help this campus and community here, and then some downstream areas. So really, we're focusing in, I would say, in terms of, getting ready to build would be this area right now. This is kind of our next, I would say, our highest priority phase to work on this area.
And when you make
yeah.
a basin, do you just basically dig it out and burn the sides? Okay.
Yeah, and that's what, we can look at some options. So what we may do is, so on the farm field side, we may not have to do much of any digging, but we would but we would maybe dig this down deep enough to get their tiles. So, because one of the things they were complaining about, they being the outhouse estate, and the farmer, they can't farm this section of the field anymore because their tiles used to run through here. So when Dick Outhouse donated the land here for Happiness House and Outhouse Park, one of the things that got kind of lost in the shuffle was that the natural flow patterns and the drainage tile all worked its way through here. Well, when this was built and topsoil piles and everything else, it kind of blocked the farm drainage. So it's kind of screwing up this bottom area. So that's why Mark is, willing to say, yes, use 0.7 acres roughly of the outhouse estate property. He was fine with that aspect to make this project work. We just got to figure out which way do we outlet this flow, this storage, so it doesn't flow through here anymore. Do we bring it to County Road 30 ditch? Do we bring it through here? And with the improvements we've made here, can this system handle what we want to do? Do we have to upsize the cross culvert right here? And then there's a lot of drainage that comes into, and this basin was actually dug, Greg sent us the engineer's report. This was actually dug to handle this offsite drainage. And take that. So that's what we want to look at, is do a little deeper dive on figuring out, okay, the best routing of this. But overall, the only reason Jim's crew would get involved, we're involved. Yeah, we want to help Happiness House, that's great, but we can't get into one-offs. We're just helping this, even though it's a nonprofit community base for disadvantaged folks, awesome story. But we got to be careful, we're not doing something just to benefit them. It's about here, downstream folks. Also, and I, the city set aside funding, and we can maybe look at that also to help pay for any of the work that's being done in here as well. So,
From a cost standpoint, these are. I mean, it doesn't appear to me to be terribly expensive.
Right. Yeah. That's up to MRD.
It's more moving.
Yeah,
I can leave it out of it.
But 5 and 20 in the company,
Yeah.
they weren't
Yeah.
terribly
No.
expensive,
No.
really,
No.
in the grand scheme. And I don't think, like, some of these are probably not even nearly that complicated.
Right.
So.
Yes.
They could be accomplished by.
Correct. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, moving dirt.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then these guys are, I love working with their crew. Sometimes they don't like working with me, but it works out all right.
Understand that.
That's right, exactly. So no, but it's they've done way more complex projects than what's being done out here for sure.
So
So
you got about half a dozen.
Yeah, so-
3 or 4 here.
yeah, there's some infield
Plus the
stuff.
other.
Yeah. So, that's, one, we want to get, this committee up to speed and kind of figure out next steps. I think we need to engage at this point, formally and pay MRB. Happiness House knows they have a financial role in this also. We just got to figure out kind of the logistics of, how much do they pay, that kind of stuff, and make all this work. And some of that's predicated on, is FEMA gonna help pay for this?
And certainly MRD from a pro bono standpoint is going to donate a certain amount of time and design work.
They've done a great job.
Yeah,
I think we're done, even though I'm saying that. That's it.
And so everybody knows too, we did meet with state and federal groups about this, trying to come up with an outside of the box, everybody works together on this. And comes up with a common solution, and we pool our resources and we come up with an awesome plan to fix the issue. And the state looked at that and said, great plan, but you can't do it because you have to keep each box separate and your boxes can't overlap. Even if it's a great plan. So each
All
one,
aimed at one.
doesn't matter, but each one, they have to be compartmentalized basically.
For
So you
FEMA,
have half a
For the
dozen
FEMA.
different.
Federal.
projects.
what about WQIP?
Yeah, but we're 2 years out before getting any funding
Yeah.
for that, so it's just like, we can do this. This needs to be done, right? So I think my thought is, we present to FEMA, Happiness House presents
They
to
have to do
FEMA.
theirs.
a design that says, okay, we're gonna build this here. And then we do a phase two off of what's built here. And build into the outhouse property, you know,
Right.
easement, and then create, you know, more storage that way. So
Do you
that's,
think you're gonna get all the basins done in this 2-year window? Or,
yeah,
okay,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, yeah,
that's not.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing I was curious about is that, okay, if you had to split off Happiness House,
right,
okay, but the rest of it.
Yeah.
Could we have you know, just a block there, all those other five?
yeah,
or
so soil and water has funding to do these infield basins.
Right.
So we're in good shape that way, so they're gonna, you know, help, you know, fund these components. And then that's where we, you know, again, we're out there, we can do this. The other great thing, you know, there's a good discussion point about when to do it. And Mark Stryker stepped up and said, listen, if I gotta lose some cropland for a season, if you gotta, you know, if I've planted, but you gotta go through it,
He doesn't care
so be
when.
it. Yeah. Yeah, so that was great, you know, yeah. so
He's like, whenever it works, no matter what time it is, when it works best for the project.
Yeah, because that's critical for Jim's group, because, you know, it's, you know, where can we fit in the window of, yeah.
Even if it's a dry period and he's got crops coming up, he's like, for what I lose, it's worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jim and Tucker will have that all figured out. They're gonna work closely on this.
Right.
To make sure,
So,
hand in hand.
the,
Oh, well,
It's all good,
yeah,
that's it.
so
Not
that's
Mark,
Mark,
that's it.
yeah, the other, the first part of your presentation, Kevin, like the area out here.
Yeah,
You're talking about doing all these within this 2-year period.
oh, absolutely,
I
yeah,
mean, the one out back here, we could have done
But
today.
those three there, who's gonna pay for those? I mean,
So-
is it gonna be a mix of?
I think it's a town, city,
Town,
yeah,
I mean, town crews.
yeah. I'm gonna be going also to the county and looking at funding potentially, you know, being allocated from the county. Where, you know, there's some options there, we're gonna look at state grants as well. But some of these, like literally, if we can get a lot of this donated, this really all we need to do here is a berm. And then this one here also, just a berm. It really, it's like,
Stop.
that's what we kind of find these ones that are set up to be able to do
Is
that.
there a reason we can't start right away on the one that's the city, the town property next to us right now? I mean,
The only thing is, it's a regulated wetland, I just gotta make sure that we're, you know, we're far enough away and it's not gonna create an issue for us, so.
the state,
Yeah, it's a state regulated wetland, it's over 12.4 acres, so that's why if we're, yeah, so I think we're okay, so we can
We're
experiment.
just gonna make the wetland more wet.
Yes. Well, I'll quite honestly, you know, I'll tell you, if the 5 and 20 project, that's also state regulated wetland, and at first they were like, oh, you're gonna. Permanently change water levels, I'm like, no, we're actually gonna improve the functional value of the wetland, and we had to document those reasons, and then they granted the permit.
Yeah.
But that we were working in the wetland, this is outside of it. And this is truly, we can demonstrate flood control
Mhm.
aspects of it, so I think we're okay.
Well, except for that, having to. Ask that question to get an answer, I mean,
Yeah.
this one is
Yeah.
pretty much under our control.
Yeah, my
We can-
take is we just experiment, like, really, let's try it, let's just make sure we're not gonna back up water to a height that impacts
Yeah.
here, obviously, and then anything else. But that's easy to figure out, you know, we can do a quick survey to, I really, and we can eyeball, and that's an easy adjustment. Oh, we got a lower to put, you know, we can raise it.
We do wanna reserve some land over there potentially for a court building at some point, but. if
no,
that's-
no,
that's,
No.
Yeah, we're good,
that's
yeah.
that way.
Yeah,
They're talking about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're not
We
doing
actually
anything
asked
there.
once if we could. We're-
yeah, they told us, no, real quick.
And that was like filling, because we're trying to figure out fill locations, like,
Yeah.
well, you know, if we build something somewhere else.
Well, they didn't like the other fulfilled location.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
But we already have a courtroom over there, so.
So. What I guess what I'm asking for from the committee and from the town would be to start, you know, I can work with Greg to come up with a proposal. You know, to look at, you know, the Happiness House area, we'll call it, but it's for sure, we gotta make sure it's providing downstream outhouse park. And city benefits as well. And we get the proposal, then we kind of figure out how we wanna divvy out, sit down with Jackie Lytle and others from Happiness House and figure out, okay, how do we wanna divvy out the costs of this proposal?
Is there any way to project or forecast what impact these projects would have versus what happened last July?
you know, we quite honestly, the July storm,
That was a freak thing, I mean,
That's gonna happen no matter what.
yeah, there's. You just get the heck out of the way, you know, that was really just, I mean, we went up, so I don't know if I got it on here or not, I might. But I've got a video of what this looked like up here, so this flow that's coming through. And literally the width was of flow going across County Road 30 was like 5 telephone poles east of
Yeah.
yeah, and it was just going across, and this whole field was
Oh, the
flooded.
water was all the way up to the top of the berm.
Yeah,
Like it was like all the way across the road. You couldn't even see where the road ended.
yeah,
well, as you said, Mother Nature's gonna have her way.
yes, yeah, so one of the, yeah, I mean, I presented where I said, okay, if we can build 300 acre feet more of storage, and you've got, and again, you gotta look at the hydrologic modeling, the storage, timing and all that kind of stuff, but best case scenario. If you had 300 acre feet, so say 100 acres, 3 feet in depth. You might be able to, if everything worked perfectly timing wise and everything else. Shave 25% off those peak flows if we had that in place, but still. Most of the bridges in here still were gonna be overwhelmed, it's still gonna hit the floodplain and everything else in through here,
The
so.
other thing it's gonna do though is protect the sediment. From
Yeah.
getting in there too, more
Yeah.
important, it's just as important as,
Yeah, that
it might
kind
not
of
stop the
drop off.
water, but it'll protect the sediment from going in
Yeah,
and drop that out.
so, yeah, maybe just go to, just look at this one real quick. So here's kind of what we did this week with Jim's crew. What would happen is this outlet from the pond and this,
Where are you?
oh, I'm sorry, here's Happiness House. I apologize. The accessible park is right here on this side. So what happens is this swale system that originates south of 5 and 20 is coming through. This pond outflow is coming in. And the way the rain garden was built is it's at the same elevation or lower than these two systems. So when they're cranking, the water was backing in and literally backing into their whole parking lot area. So this whole area was flooded. This area was flooded. Yeah, maybe go up 2 slides, I think it is. Yeah, yep. So this is from 2 weeks ago. This is the water coming out of that rain garden into the parking lot. This is on the backside. This is how much water was coming in. There's their curb elevation, and maybe 3 inches higher, that water is going into the building that they just got done fixing. Yeah. So what, it was just like, we saw this, and this has happened 2 or 3 other times since the July 9th event. And I'm like, all right, we gotta do something to fix this. It's just, let's just do it because this is crazy. So we did that. This all got cleaned out, lowered, and we put that berm in this week. Jim's crew did a great job to get that done. So, and then here's, maybe just click on that one. Here's that big pond that they have. But one of the problems was that pond outflow, there was a lot of resistance for that water to kind of get out. So it was building in here. The good thing is it's got a lot of storage potential still. The next building's got, you know, it's like 2.5, 3 feet of height before it would even get close to that. So there's a lot of storage potential. And that's where MRB is going to be looking at, okay, now with this improved outflow, the berm is in place, that's protected. Do we want to send that upland farm field drainage into the pond ultimately? Or do we need to send it to County Road 30 or split it? And that's what, you know, we're looking at from a hydro pad and those kind of things. And the nice thing about it being done by in-house forces, you know, hey, you know, this is not working the way exactly the way we want to, we can shift this and not have to worry about change orders and all that kind of stuff, and go from there. So yeah, that's some other stuff from last night. We were looking at a project. Maybe just click on this one. I'll just show you. This is Fallbrook, main branch of Fallbrook, different streams. We've got a project that we're looking that's going to help town properties way down below near Fallbrook, the country club, that area. So we've got massive drainage that's coming through here, and we're working on, we got an easement just about to the town of Hopewell. This flow was going over top the road, flow coming down this way. which ultimately works its way back down past Lowe's and through FLCC campus, Country Club out to the lake. So this is another one we're looking to build, and we got a bunch more that we've kind of got our irons on to try to make happen. So it does have a town impact on that one as well. It's not Suckerbrook, but Fallbrook in that area. So that's my update. And I think it's really, you know, if your blessing is to, you know, we can work with Jim or Greg and Jim we'll put a proposal, we scope of services to look at the hacking across area and come up with some design solutions there, and then we, you know, we'll parallel track these other areas, and once we get some landowner kind of commitment level, you know, at a concept stage saying, yes, I'm willing to look at this, then maybe we can engage again on those sites as well.
Sounds good.
And the goal would be to get. Sort of looking at having this house, town, city, and potentially county funding. For some of these, I have a meeting with Chris today on another town issue, Chris DeBolt. And I'm gonna bring up the idea of, the potential for some sort of watershed council partnership with the county. But bring up again the ability to maybe fund some things, so you hear it from multiple sources.
Great.
And then with that, the cost sharing and the time input, maybe, you know, our cost sharing might be our time.
Oh,
It might be, it'll
kind.
be our time in kind, our time and equipment, because of,
Yeah.
you know, over $100 an hour, or whatever it is, you know, the equivalent of a backhoe. And a dozer and hours and the operators, so.
So timing wise, what we might be able to do, and we've done this before. Where we rented, so maybe we need another excavator or we need another bulldozer, but we lined up a bunch of projects. So we did a 3-month rental, and we literally hit projects in about 5 different towns, and it was 7 different project areas. We were able to crank that out and then use the various funding resources to reimburse the town fully for that, so.
That'd be great.
So like maybe that Hopewell project lines up the same time frame and that aspect, so I think. We're gonna need a large dozer for this one for sure, a decent amount of earth moving, and maybe it's one that, hey, if we had a large dozer for a few days on. A couple of these projects, it may make it go a lot, because yours is more of a finishing dozer.
Yeah, it's not meant for mastering.
Yeah.
So you guys are the pros. We're turning into the pros of this, we'll
You're gonna have so
we'll
much
get out of the
fun.
way.
That's
I
right.
feel like if I were a highway guy, this would be the thing I'd be most excited.
Is that everybody?
So this, if that works, you know, we'll you know, get that scope of services together and figure it out.
Got 80% of the town board here, and nobody's objecting.
That's right.
And it's hard to object to water quality measures.
Yeah.
We like to do it
happen.
Yeah,
very, you know, cost effectively. I mean, that's one of the things we really focus in on is, you know, figuring out ways to get these things done. And Jim's crew is huge in helping to make that happen.
While I have you both here and you mentioned the country club, either one of you know why they're taking down all those trees along Lake Shore Boulevard?
I do not. They're working with the city on that, I think. Some are ash trees. I think a lot of them are in there, and I think they do have some drainage issues. Along Lakeshore Drive, you know, it's so flat there, so it's. I think that's what's going on there, is they're trying to work both of those
And it
components.
looks like the city's doing the work there.
Yes, yeah,
anybody's gotta take down trees, you take them down now, because it's like April 15th.
Yeah.
Then you get the longer bat, so.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to take down the trees during this window.
Looks significantly different driving along there
yeah.
now than it did previously.
You should plant willows and fix the drainage.
So we got a lot of willows we can pull from, right?
Yeah, that's.
And a whole creek full.
That's right, that's it. So.
We're lucky to have you, Kevin.
Oh, listen, we're looking at Jim, I mean, it's a great team. And I love the crew that you have here and the equipment that you've invested in. So I love it for you. So it's,
You're welcome.
There are construction companies in our area.
That's
that
what I
are large.
that's right.
And we have a hydroseeder.
Yes.
Oh, it's coming.
All right, we will have a hydroseeder. We will have luscious green grass growing faster than we ever have.
And we'll find something else to put in as a Christmas lunch, so.
Right.
Just need another disaster, then you can get.
No,
fun.
no.
Well, okay, any other questions for Kevin?
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I appreciate it, always good
Hope your
presentation.
mouth's feeling better.
Oh, yeah, it's okay, it's all good.
Thanks, Kevin.
Dental emergencies are not.
Yeah.
No,
Not
I've
the
had
norm.
my share of those.
It was an unexpected, oh, no, we got it.
Yeah, all right.
Everybody's blood pressure is always elevated when you walk through that door.
Yes, that's right.
All right. We're going to move along, project updates, this was put on as kind of a catch-all, just, authorized project, Jim, that.
Well, you've
I
heard
mean,
about,
we got some things listed here, but,
you
you want to just give an overview.
heard about 28 Road from Jim, where that's at. We have not heard anything new about County Road 4 sewer.
Right.
Hopefully they get back going on it in April. Supposedly we have some money then. We'll see what happens. So, well, which project, I mean, you want just,
Well, we just skip down the list here, if there's nothing else on that, we could. Drainage on outhouse property, Kevin covered,
Kevin covered that.
so,
I do wanna talk about one other thing when Jim's done it, whatever we're.
no,
Okay.
And we are slowly moving along with the Bridge New York stuff.
Yeah.
Robbie has got their proposal done.
Yeah, the DOT does things a little differently, so.
So
It's just a different animal to deal with.
I should have at the February meeting, a resolution for the board to approve the more or less the fee schedule, of how this engineering part works, okay? It's all driven by what the state said, it's not something we can negotiate or change, I mean, they're the ones to say, here's the amount we expect you to spend on this, this, and this. You may not spend it all, just be aware that these are numbers we have to hit in order to get the funding. Okay,
and this
It's-
was for,
the second
Second
point,
point.
culvert, yeah,
So
okay,
it's the proposals, it'll look weird because it's the way the state does it, it's cost plus, so it's like, there's like. You have your rates and then there's like a fixed. Overhead and profit number that gets attached to it, so. It's gonna look very different than anything that I've given you guys, it'll be an interesting contract.
It's much more efficient.
Send nobody.
Send yourself
Yeah, it's more efficient.
But I would have had a 3-page proposal, he's got like 20.
20. Yeah, it's just not, it's not the easiest to read. Cause
Yeah.
it doesn't really flow, it just,
Yeah. That's all I kept telling him, like, you're gonna have to walk these guys through this, because it's gonna be pretty confusing.
it is. Part of FEMA, I don't know if I'll have it next board meeting. I have to get a proposal from IRB for the dual room ponds that we have to
Yeah.
repair. Now, for mitigation, for them to give us money, they need to have a stamped plan. To present back to FEMA, to say. Put it back to pre-existing conditions, we'll take X.
Do you want to meet out there with Steve
Next week we do.
next week? Do you want to be part of that?
It might be good just to look at it, and then maybe it might be parlay to getting up in the, with the Warners. Look at that.
So, alright, that's one thing that. If we want funding, we gotta get this stamped in order to get funding from FEMA. The category A, which was the day after event cost have been submitted. The category B, which was things were repaired after the storm. Some of it's been submitted, and then we're on to Cat C, which is permanent repairs, we're still discussing. And that includes Lindsay's repairs to the parks also. So it could be the highway, I say highway part and parks part, but we're just working on C now. as I said before, it's just a long process.
Have you had any better turnaround, any better success with our person?
Right now, I'm working with a lady named Beth, who seems to be pretty high up on the food chain.
Okay, good.
So she's the one who's been giving us the information back for us to approve. Okay, that's a new person.
Okay, good.
And. What was I gonna say next?
Sorry, permit repairs, C.
No, what am I forgetting?
we,
Oh, yeah,
Right.
we had grant, thank you.
yeah, so the current round is out, it's due, I think in June, like mid-June. So, to get into that, program, we'll need to complete the PER, complete seeker. Pass a 202B resolution and then pass a bond resolution for replacing water mains.
Water main.
And
Okay.
then,
We talked about this a bit yesterday in the finance committee meeting. But you have to have the submission, what you say, July or June?
It's June, they, normal, like in the past, they've had this where it was like due, like, you know, yeah, like July, August timeframe, but I think they moved it up because. Trying to remove some legacy projects that are on the list. Just make it hard for people to be ready. So
So you got,
they pushed it up early this year, but, so we'd have to complete the PER, the good thing is the PER is pretty straightforward. Cause it's not like, we're not getting into treatment pump station, it's not complicated, there's not a lot of modeling that we
No,
necessarily really need to get into, it's basically just replacing pipes.
but how much, I mean, we know how much pipe, I mean, you can define the project enough
Yeah,
to have.
you're just gonna maximize the wheel, so it's gonna be an $8 million job, so you can get a $5 million grant. And that's basically, you're just gonna back it in that way,
So can you walk us through our timeframe? Like we did earlier?
So-
3.5 months.
so as long as we can get authorized,
So
yeah, so we
what are the
have.
windows.
It's gonna take about 60 days to do the PER. But we'll also need about 60 days to do the seeker, but seeker doesn't necessarily have to start when the PER is done, we'll have to. We should be able to get into the seeker partway through the PER, so there's some overlap. That's gotta be neg decked so that we can then pass a 202B resolution. Before you pass a bond resolution.
So we approve the PER when?
I'll have a proposal to the town here probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. I had it like halfway done, but I haven't been in the
So
office.
approve the PER on the 26th.
Yeah, so I'll give you the proposal for the grant application, seeker, and the PER. You'll have all that stuff to move forward. We'll have to work with Donegan's office and a little bit with the bond council to get the bond resolution. You'll need Chris Nather to write the 202B resolution. That's all the people that we have to kind of, prepay to get into this bin of money.
What's the 202B?
It's under town law 202B, it's basically, it's that resolution that you passed. Even for procure a tank, you had to pass that 202B resolution that says, the district's gonna pay for this.
Okay, thank you.
So all that would basically need to be done, and we'd wanna catch that last meeting in May. So basically, neg deck, 202B bond resolution, that way
We need to get all that,
that way we can hit the June submission.
that all needs to be approved by that
Yeah,
last meeting in May.
Simple.
it's a race, without a doubt, it's doable. Only because the project, I think, is more or less straightforward, because it's really just water main replacement, I guess we'll probably add. The aspirators that actually add some amount of treatment, because I think that'll help us a little bit with our bond, with our grant points. We can add that piece in there, but other than that, it should be more or less straightforward.
As you said. A few minutes ago, $5 million. That's the maximum waiver grant,
Yeah,
out of an $8 million.
yeah, so you have a $3 million note that you have to,
They're gonna give you 70, you pay for 30.
right,
We just put that on the other notes for,
That's what I would like.
Contemplating. Mhm.
Yeah,
And that's what I was asking yesterday. I mean, I assume this is the right year to be doing this. I mean, that's, I just,
it could end up being a multi-year funding, right, so we might be, just like I was just talking about how they're clearing legacy projects off the list, I mean, this type of project, I would not be surprised if it took 2 years. Grant submission, but you still need to do all the stuff anyways,
To do it
to,
now.
yeah, for any of them, so I'm like, you gotta do this legwork to get into this pot of money, and then.
Mhm.
It might, like I said, it might be a 2-year process to get the money, very similar to like Brickyard Tank, it's the same way, they can fund in the first round, get funded in the second round.
Mhm.
If we weren't successful in getting a grant, a grant. Same data, the same. Application could be put in next year using that.
Yeah, just realized they
to make
changed the,
Updated for whatever.
they changed the grant guidance just a little bit, like each and every year, so like they always gotta keep you on your toes. If it is basically just the same grant, I've done that before for like, we redo it for $500, right? It's not a big lift to go ahead and resubmit. But it's only if they change the grant guidance, then we have to do new stuff, then yeah, then there's costs associated with it.
And you'll have that stuff for us on the 26th, or meeting, second meeting.
Yes, yeah, like so.
Okay. All right, you pretty much finished.
Yeah, I'm
your-
good.
If we have 2 meetings, so.
Number 3 was drainage.
Let me
Yeah.
ask this question, Greg. Do we have to have the bonds secured in order to submit
No.
the application?
We just have to have the bond resolution passed.
Okay, good, thank you.
Generally, they like it if you clear the permissive referendum period. The estoppel period is not necessarily as critical, but. Generally speaking, if you can clear that permissive referendum, that timetable, then that's good.
Makes them happen.
Yeah,
Well, it just shows your commitment.
And it shows that we've already,
well, they're not gonna give you 5 million if you don't have the ability to actually do the project, right?
with that window shut, it makes it a little bit easier.
What were you gonna say, Kevin?
The Barnes Gully land acquisition
Oh.
and source water grant funding for that, so. It's we're making progress, to get, so you guys have you acquired the land, is it closed yet or no?
Or just the return.
Talking about the 13 acre.
Yeah.
So I guess we're just waiting for it to be filed with the county.
Okay. All right, so we're working the process right now. We've got the grant. It's through the city of Canandaigua. We applied to the DEC. We've got the source water grant funding. What we have to do, because it's source water, so it had to be tied to a water supply aspect, we actually have to go in and modify the city's water supply permit, which required an engineering supplement, which we wrote, and I had Jim Sprague stamp before he left city DPW. We have to go through all these seeker forms, all these documents that had to be done. That is at DEC's realm now to grant a water supply permit modification to then allow us, this is something they just brought up, well, you have to do all these things in order to be able to actually get that money. We are the state's guinea pig. Nobody has gotten this far as a municipal water supply organization to entity to get this grant funding and actually get it allocated.
Is that a reflection of how difficult it
Oh,
is to get it to
it's-
work?
it really is horrible. So that's happening. We're gonna get that modification. We then have to go through a bunch of stuff. One is we're filling out a phase 1 environmental assessment form. To complete that, we may need MRB, but I think we're okay to do it on our own. We have to interview the landowner and just make sure there's no contamination issues on the property. There's a whole bunch of other things that have to happen. We gotta title. What we're gonna have to figure out is the city, because they're the grant recipient, anything that we do, we have to make sure the city actually is the one doing it. So then that's eligible to 75% grant funding. So the town may have to upfront money to the city. So we gotta do 2 appraisals. The one appraisal that was done didn't meet the state's arcane requirements. It had to be another level of certification of the appraisal. So Jim LeGret's got somebody in his office who could do that. So we're gonna go down that path to get that one reappraised using that methodology, and then get another appraisal done. And then I think it's the average of the 2, or DEC gets to choose which one that they will then fund off of. And then all of these things we do will be grant eligible. So the purchase price, so then we have to do this dance with the city, just so you know that the logistics that have to happen here. The town purchased it, which is, we'll be purchasing, it's great, and we will have to then sit down in a closing and actually have. The town sell the land to the city. In the same closing, the city then sells it back to the town. you know, for the same exact price, and then that sale is then what's grant eligible. To then submit to the state for reimbursement, it's crazy. And it's mind boggling, but this is significant money, so it's worth doing, and you know, it's in that $300,000 range, so let's, you know, we're working that process to make this happen, to be able to. Ultimately reimburse the town 75% of the cost for that land acquisition, so. I just want to give you a brief update as to kind of.
How screwed up our state system.
Yeah, and I don't know where we're going with that, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, so, and they get it, the folks we're working with kind of get it, but they're stuck in the
Yeah,
system right now too, so they're working with us, so.
Oh, that's good.
So just wanted to give you that, there's a lot of moving pieces on this, and we're working great with Lindsay and others to try to get this to the finish line and make it happen.
Good. Once you clear all those hurdles, somebody in Albany is gonna say, damn, we screwed up.
Still,
We gotta
move the
develop
goalpost
some
again.
new ones.
That's right, that's right.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Are you packing up the leaves? You gotta go?
Yeah, I gotta run to Rushville, I got a meeting there, actually late for, but there's a couple other things that.
Well, why don't we take this asset management discussion and put it on next month?
That's fine.
We can-
Yeah, it's
We don't
totally
need
fine,
that,
but
not really.
I mean, the quick and dirty of that whole thing is that that was a free program. Through the DEC for wastewater plants, but my point was is that you could use that as a template. To look at municipal buildings to help you guys project out your O&M costs and stuff like that. You know, so we don't have like surprise moves that we have to deal with as emergency contracts and stuff like that, or at least try to avoid those situations as much as you can. By having a little better planning, I guess, so to speak.
Well, we could. Dive into that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
Yep.
You sent something to Jim about it, so. You want to take, I don't think there's anything else on the list here that you.
The roof is going along fairly
Yeah.
well. My guy Eric was out there, looking at it. There was a couple spots of, some. Rusting areas, but generally speaking, the decking looked good and the parapet wall looked pretty good, so. I believe that's
I saw
proceeding.
big piles of supplies out in the lot the other day. so-
Yeah, so that's
Porta
proceeding
potty
along.
and stuff, so. Good, well,
Anything else? in there?
no,
Relocate cabin to Ananda?
no, that's just. Jim's tired of looking at it, so.
That's
No,
a,
no,
that's a
there-
constant reminder to me as we drive by, we're like, we're not done with Ananda yet.
There is a question there though, and that is to put that, well. Where this is gonna go, I mean, you were talking about getting water, getting services up to it, and that is
Yeah.
something that we. Don't have a plan for, so
Yeah,
that is something that has to be developed as part of that whole and uplands renovation or whatever. you wanna
random
call it.
model, looks like we can run it up there with just some regular 8-inch and 6-inch
I had,
water main, so.
that would be pro bono for us, a model of the Oneida Park, so.
Well, thank
Man,
you.
it's pro bono, getting tossed out of the water.
Where does it
See,
So what-
water up there.
So what is it that we have to, I mean, is there something that you have to do to? I mean, is there something he has to design or we could just do it?
Yeah.
Just use your people to do it.
Oh, yeah, we just do it ourselves, that's not.
If I put it in,
Yeah.
let's get that thing out of here.
Okay.
Whoa, wait, I don't want water.
So,
And
what do you gotta get
$400,000
power?
for weed for it, so.
Right, about getting power up there.
I mean, it's supposed to snow on Valentine's Day, right? We get it in before that.
Oh,
Yeah, I think Jadestone, we've contacted those guys, to get them looking at the electrical part. Electrical side of things.
think I've asked Lindsay and Greg and Tom. They need to come back to the town board with a cost associated with your plan.
Yeah,
Okay, so you know, well, the road that you, or driveway you wanna get up the hill with. The electric, the septic, and the water.
right,
So the board can say, okay, I need X amount of dollars to do this.
yeah, originally we were asked to like look at like some type of phasing. But the reality is like, once you put the cabin up there, you pretty much need the
You need
utilities.
Yes, I mean, you.
So there was very limited things that you could offload as part of that concept that we had to say that, okay, we're not gonna do this. So some of that parking, you could basically land bank the parking or whatever, but. You know, you need to deal with the stormwater stuff, you need to deal with utilities, you need to deal with grading, just to be able to do. You know, that first phase, so there's really not much to offload.
So it's got 400,000 from ARPA right now. That needs to get used in the next year and a half, so. That's
But you
already
need a
there.
plan to.
Yeah.
We need a plan.
Well, I think, I
Yeah,
think correct me if I'm wrong, ones that we need to make sure Parks and Rec is good with the
They're
plan.
ready to move.
Okay,
They
Yeah,
approved the
They did,
plan,
yeah, they
the
did.
most recent, I think we all approved it.
Yeah.
okay.
but not
Let me
maybe
see.
be fleshed out more.
I should have a little discussion about the plan, just to make sure, you know. Here's where it's gonna go, we're all good with it.
Was the cabin,
Just the first
No,
one.
just that we're just getting the,
cause I mean, we could bring it up as a refresher, I mean, we had that discussion.
We were set on that one, out of the
Yeah.
three, there was three plans, we have it on the one, with the
We-
modifications that.
I think we ought to review it again.
I think it's a good idea, it's
just,
been a while.
yeah, just.
Send it right
I think as long as it is, because before anyone spends any like design
Mhm.
dollars, I'd like to make sure the concept is 100% settled.
Mhm.
I think we were finally, so. I think-
The only thing that I remember is a question mark was just the bathhouse and where that might potentially go.
Where do we review it?
You mean
want
the
it to come
existing
to the
bathhouse?
meeting on the 26th?
No,
So we need
our
to review,
bathhouse,
because
the
there's been a
existing
review of
bathhouse
the
is
board, and
ADA.
say this is the plan that we,
Reviewed in your, like your weekly report, that you sent out?
I can send it out.
I think we ought to have the plan in front of us and finalize the concept as a group.
We did in the town board meeting, so it is, that was last fall, we did, it's been approved. and
Maybe on the 26th, we could refresh our memory, yes.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the, I'll put it as an attachment on the 26th agenda.
Good, that's a good idea.
I'll check
Maybe
with Tommy,
it's-
make sure Tommy can be over.
And if you want that, I
In
mean,
case there's any final comments or
and
something.
I don't think he needs to be there, I don't think Tom needs to come in person, but if he wants to zoom in.
Yeah.
And just be there if anybody has any questions,
Right.
that would be great, but. He doesn't need to be there in person. So I'll add that add that for the agenda on the 26th.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, everybody can.
we're good, so
Yeah,
let's
see
go to the cabin out front here. That's
What's that?
going to the cabin out front here,
Mhm.
you know, I've been talking to Lindsay. It's really like to get, I would like to get that. Up at the top of the hill. And there are three cabins there.
That are gonna be,
And my feeling is that we can utilize the existing water, electric and septic that are gonna be near this new cabin that's below the bathhouse. Tying to that to get yourself going with at least that cabin, because let's face it, all this other stuff that wants to be done is not gonna be done in 24. And, you know, you'd be looking at sometime in 25 to, by the time you're ready to get your cabins up in there, it's what I'm getting at.
It would be good to get it out of here because I've heard people. What are you doing with it?
Right, and that's what I
For
get.
sale, is it, you know,
So I think if we can show that we'll do something with it
Yeah.
and get it rented. Now, there'll be some cost, we'll have to talk to Murph, because we'll have to have some hurricane ties on it. To hold down some concrete and the stone path to get there, but. I don't think it's be a ton of money, I just think there's be some money involved to get it in service.
So my question was, you wanna put it up kind of near where we eventually want it to go, would it not just be easier, and I said this to you, to just stick it maybe under King Hall there?
Under King.
Like between King Hall and the main parking lot? So it's
I-
already got parking nearby and, you know,
if you're gonna move it once.
Me, I hear what you're saying, like, 'cause it's very steep.
yeah, I know,
Okay, and so we're going to probably, either we're gonna dig into the bank and put a
Mhm.
retaining wall, or we're gonna make a spot come out flat and then down again for it to
Mhm.
sit on.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was ever the intent to put it there.
No, it's not, I just mean that, I'm just thinking, cause you don't have the road in yet, you're gonna have to put the whole road in kind
Well,
of
we
get
got the
up there,
driveway
so.
close to the top
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
That's
so you,
already there.
but where would you be intending to have them park? Well, I guess
Well,
like
he's gonna
for the
put in a
existing
temporary-
cabins, they
he's gonna
park.
put in a temporary.
You know, we could, cause it's, eventually you're gonna have a parking lot up there of
Yeah,
some
yeah,
sort
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So my feeling was, you know, to the top to a parking area that's constructed, they
And
can
then
walk over to it.
Okay.
I mean, maybe like you're 60, 80 feet away from it, it's not.
As a
huge.
temporary, until we.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
plan is in place.
This conversation raises a question for me, were we gonna self-perform the work at the park, or are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to.
What's ours?
So your intent is to put it over on the south side where we are planning to eventually.
Yeah, over there along the building.
So right
It's
where we're
already
tearing
flat.
down the existing ones.
Correct. That's where I would, that was my recommendation to, or to place that. So we can, at least get it going.
Do we need to get a slab for it?
Is that?
Yes, so that's where
Oh.
the three current cabins are. Jim is suggesting we put it in this area. As well, when it's movable.
We won't put a slab, but what we'll do is we're gonna put piers in the ground.
Okay,
up
Where
there.
those-
like we've got.
The
on
three
lake
existing
side.
cabins are coming down the street.
Yeah, but
so
no,
it's already
flush the
flat.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay,
Most of the facility are-
some of those piers are gonna be,
So we just have to crack the Sunday.
I call them hurricane straps, they're gonna hold to the ground,
Which
gives it
Jim-
bad wind,
that's what the proposal
so then that will
too.
build up with a solid block.
But that is on the, that's on the website,
And then we'll have to.
and that's our most recent
That's good.
iteration.
Oh.
That's
That's nice. And we'll have to figure out what we want to do for skirting around the bottom, finished.
Yeah, we have to put gutters up and then there's a couple.
Okay.
Straw.
Touches them too.
Excellent.
Oh, critters.
So, okay,
Yeah, that'd be great, and then the intent is to be able to rent it this summer,
it's possible, we can get, you know.
because Lindsay and I have already said we get the first one.
Do you wanna put the
So
first week
whatever the
out
first
there?
week is, Lindsay and I are having a girls' night.
But I think if we could, it would make sense instead of having it sit there.
Yeah.
As a
Oh, yeah.
lawn ornament, start
Get it
getting
up there.
some.
It's so proud.
It is, I mean, it's- I feel like we should have got commission from Lancaster Log Cabins for the amount of people that call them.
People do a lot of
People stop, they ask us where we got it from.
Take pictures of it, yeah.
Get a bird dog on
All right, well, let's move on to the last item on the list. 333 lighting, we talked about that a bit.
Yeah, I need any prices.
You're still getting prices, so
I called today, isn't having.
I don't think there's nothing really for us to do today with that.
No, there's not, because I don't have a number for you guys to even think about. Or a model to share with you that we agreed upon that we'd like to see out there.
Okay,
Do you think, I know we had mentioned potentially the 26th, but do you think do you think the March meeting is a good target? That they'll be able to have stuff back to you by
March
bid
would be a good
meeting,
target,
March
really
bid
bad.
meeting?
And it still could get done this year, you know,
Yeah.
it's like a 16-20 week lead time once
Okay.
approved, so it could be, you know, say. August, September, it could start be putting in,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
so, yes. And. You know, since we're talking about 3:30, you wanna talk about our meeting, just real quick? You wanna leave it
talk about
out?
what?
The meeting?
Yeah.
We met with state representatives earlier this week in Farmington. The state is gonna be redoing the Farmington intersections. Not the Farmington,
Right,
sorry,
right,
the 332 intersections starting. They're starting at 96, and they're gonna be coming down all the way just short of the Tops intersection, the one that's our worst case intersection. They funded it all the way except to that really bad one. They didn't include that in the funding. They're gonna be redoing the crosswalks, improving them, improving accessibility. Squaring them off, improving the distance, making those safer, setting back the stoplights, so they're on the furthest part of the intersections. Enhancing the visibility of the stoplights, so putting the yellow back framing on them. Eliminating the turn left, U-turn at your own risk. That is all up and down there, so U-turn or left turn only on a controlled green. So it will be a full red, yellow, green turn. And you can only turn left or U-turn on the green arrow. They're gonna be narrowing up the left turn lanes and kind of constricting some of the the U-turn widening areas that really only affect you got the plow guys and the aesthetics of the area.
And like,
Yeah, we're trying, and we're gonna try to figure out a way, and I'm gonna talk with the school to see if there's any way to. Try to include and see what it would cost to include the other intersection. But
you mean North Road.
Yeah,
north and
et cetera.
the Tops and the Heritage intersection, but.
You just seem not to wanna hear anything about that.
I know, and they stopped right there, which is odd, considering that's the one that we met
I know
about.
it's a mess, so.
And if they were to include that, because it's out of their initial scope, they would have to redo the scope of their project, so that they would have to reopen all their search documents. So they have to have their funding allocated. And basically encumbered and ready to spend by July, right? That's like another cutoff. So then they would lose that funding they've been given for this project because they've changed the scope, so it doesn't hold. So just by adding this one intersection, it changes the whole scope of the project, so basically the old one is out the window and they have to start all over again, pushing it back.
Just tell
But
them
that
what-
certainly begs the question, why wasn't it included in the first place? So they wouldn't.
They
have-
said the funding wasn't available.
They said funding wasn't available,
Just tell them we need a 2-lane rotary there.
so
4
it's
lane
like,
or-
I don't,
But the improvements will be greatly
yes.
help
well,
with the.
They'll help with everything with the left turns and they're working with us on the lighting. They're gonna, so they're replacing all the intersection lighting. So the light poles for the intersections,
Mhm.
and they're gonna work with us to match what we have with uptown. And they're gonna work with us to match what we have with the sidewalks. So they wanna make sure that we have that. Any of the sidewalks that are coming down from the incentive sidewalks that might be coming down from the uptown project connecting to 332. They want an idea of where those might be.
Mhm.
So they're willing to work with us on those other things and they will use what we ask them to use if there are enhanced features that we would like to include. So in that regard, they've been very amenable in working with us.
Interesting, those things were not in the scope of the project. They can add those in. But
Well,
you
what-
can't add, yes,
So what
Yeah,
started this was,
Terry.
they wanted to use wooden poles, they wanted to get this intersection streetlights off their poles. We said, no, we want it to be aesthetically
We wanted to
attractive all the way down through there, not some wooden pole between 2 steel poles. So they were agreeable to that.
so they're gonna match some of the stuff to what, I mean, when. We decide what we want for that uptown area
Well-
pole,
That pole will not match what we're looking for streetlight, that will be up farther, higher up, so it floods the
Okay.
intersection. Not just a lane along the road.
But it might be a similar color or a similar,
Style.
it'll blend
No
more.
blood.
And they're doing it all the way up in through Farmington, up at the intersect 96.
does it go all the way to the thruway or?
Yeah.
I mean, past
Is
90?
it going all the way to Hawkerway?
Colette.
They're going to collect,
Colette.
yeah, they just bumped Colette down, that's. And-
Nothing there.
Are they doing any changes with Thomas Emerson intersection? Is that? I think that's something we just think it is.
They're doing nothing with the road surface either, I mean, it's just the.
Just intersections.
other-
Just intersection, lining, striping and lights. Lighting and traffic control.
Okay. You know this was coming or?
They emailed us just like a week or so ago.
Yeah.
So they're like, nobody has it for.
So, yeah, you're in, yeah,
You know,
So
yeah,
they
It's kinda like-
emailed us in Farmington
Yeah.
and we get together just to talk about it. So,
yeah, we knew it was coming.
Yeah. Or,
yeah, it wasn't.
But it's not gonna start till 25.
oh, it isn't.
No,
They're in
Well,
design.
then we'll definitely have
bid.
our lights figured out by then.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, so it won't start till 25, so it's not like, hey, it started.
And hopefully, some of those connecting sidewalks might actually be good at that too.
Yeah.
well, we've come to the end of the list, so.
Can I ask a
Okay.
question that's not on the list? Any update on Colonel Freeland Road or the Jamaica Road?
There's no update, Greg and I talked. Greg is willing to share his road document, that their design. After we have in writing the agreement, the understanding from Dave that he will do the road.
Have you had any more meetings with?
I'm waiting on Nadler to get that. I've had the discussion. He's willing and excited and ready to go with it. It's just the matter of the density and the increase. We can give him in writing that we will allow X percentage of density. I think that's all we can give him at this point. That we can give him a 30 or 40% increase